Doyen Kim stepped through the airlock and felt his stomach drop, not from fear, but from the sight before him. The assembly hall of the Galactic Council stretched out like a cathedral made of light and metal. Hundreds of alien beings filled the massive space. Some floated in anti-gravity bubbles. Others stood on platforms designed for their strange bodies. The noise was overwhelming. Clicks, whistles, mechanical sounds, and languages that hurt his ears. He walked forward on shaking legs. His simple gray suit felt wrong here. Everyone else wore shimmer clothes or had bodies that glowed with technology. Doyen carried only a data pad and wore a small translator chip behind his ear. He looked plain. He looked human. "There it is," a voice boomed across the hall. Doyen looked up to see a massive creature with purple skin and 4 arms pointing at him. The representative from Earth. How quaint! Laughter rippled through the assembly. Not kind laughter, the mocking kind that made Doyen's face burn. He found his assigned seat. It was in the worst spot in the entire hall, tucked near a wall where the ventilation systems hummed loudly. The chair was too small, clearly meant for a species much shorter than humans. Doyen sat anyway, keeping his back straight and his face calm. An alien that looked like a floating jellyfish drifted past. "Careful where you sit, human. That's where we put the waste recyclers." More laughter echoed around him. Doyen said nothing. He opened his datapad and began taking notes. The hall had 12 exits. He counted them carefully. The ceiling showed signs of maintenance work, fresh welding marks on the support beams. The ventilation near him was running hot. He could feel it. "Order!" a voice rang out. The chamber fell silent. At the center of the room, on the highest platform, stood the council leader. She was a Vrelian named Thexnar. Her scales reflected the light like mirrors. Her eyes were cold as she looked down at the gathered species. "We have much business today," Thexnar said. "But first, we must address the petition from the planet called Earth." Doyen stood up slowly. All eyes turned to him. Thousands of alien eyes. Some had too many. Some had none at all but still seemed to stare. "The humans wish to join our council," Thexnar continued. Her voice dripped with disbelief. "A species that only discovered faster-than-light travel 20 years ago. A species that still fights wars on its own planet. A species so primitive they still use combustion engines." A reptilian creature in the front row hissed with amusement. "They breathe oxygen, plain oxygen, like some kind of bacteria." "Their lifespans are so short," added another voice. "Barely a century. How can they understand decisions that affect millennia?" Doyen felt his jaw tighten, but he kept quiet. His training kicked in, the training from his old life as a firefighter. Stay calm, observe, wait for your moment. "I propose we reject this petition immediately," Thexnar said. "Humanity has nothing to offer us. They are violent, short-lived, and technologically backward." "Seconded," came a chorus of voices. "Wait!" Doyen's voice was quiet, but the translator chip amplified it across the hall. "I ask permission to speak." Thexnar sighed dramatically. "Very well. You have 3 minutes, human. Make them count." Doyen walked to the center speaking platform. His footsteps echoed in the sudden silence. When he reached the podium, he looked out at the sea of alien faces. Some looked curious. Most looked bored. "You're right," he began. "Humans are young compared to you. We made mistakes. We fought wars. We damaged our planet." He paused. "But we learned. We united. We reached out to the stars not because we had to, but because we wanted to meet you." An alien made a sound like grinding metal. Doyen ignored it. "You say we have nothing to offer, but we offer something you may have forgotten. We remember what it means to struggle, to survive, to pull together when everything goes wrong." He touched his chest. "Every human alive today comes from ancestors who survived ice ages, plagues, wars, and disasters. We know how to adapt. We know how to endure." The hall was quiet now. Some aliens leaned forward. "We're not asking to lead the council," Do-yoon said. "We're asking to learn from you, and maybe, just maybe, we can teach you something too." He sat down. For a moment, nothing happened. Then polite applause rippled through the hall. It was the kind of applause you give a child who tried their best but failed. Thexnar smiled coldly. "A touching speech. We will consider your petition and vote tomorrow." She turned to other business. Do-yoon returned to his terrible seat near the wall. A young woman appeared beside him, Hana Choi, his assistant. She was a scientist, brilliant with alien biology. "That was good," she whispered. "It wasn't enough," Do-yoon replied quietly. Next to Hana stood Minho Park, barely 26 and already Earth's youngest diplomat. He was staring at his datapad with a frown. "Do-yoon," he whispered, "I'm getting weird readings from the station systems." "What kind of readings?" "Environmental fluctuations. Nothing major, but—" "Probably just their advanced technology," Hana said. "We're not used to stations this complex." But Do-yoon noticed something. The air near the ventilation smelled wrong, like hot metal, like electrical burning. He knew that smell from his firefighting days. He stood up and walked to the wall panel. "Excuse me," he called to a passing technician, a creature with 6 arms and no face that Do-yoon could see. "I think there's a problem with this panel." The technician made a clicking sound. The translator interpreted it as laughter. "Your primitive senses cannot handle our advanced atmosphere mixture, human. Sit down." Do-yoon looked at the panel again. It was definitely hot. Too hot. But the technician was already walking away. The lights flickered once, just for a second. Nobody else seemed to notice. They were all busy with political debates and trade discussions. Do-yoon sat back down slowly. He looked at the exits again, counted them again. Something felt wrong. His old instincts were screaming at him. But what could he do? He was just one human in a room full of advanced species who thought he was primitive. He pulled his jacket closer and waited, and watched, and worried. The next morning, the assembly hall buzzed with activity. Aliens floated, walked, and crawled to their positions. Do-yoon sat in his uncomfortable chair and tried to stay hopeful. Today was the vote. Today, Earth would learn its fate. Thexnar took her position at the center platform. "We will now debate the human petition before voting," she announced. "Who wishes to speak?" Immediately, dozens of aliens stood. The first was a floating creature covered in crystals. Her name was Prismka, and her voice sounded like wind chimes. "The humans are too new, too unstable. They multiply too quickly. In 50 years, they could outnumber half the council species combined." "Agreed," rumbled a massive alien that looked like living stone. "They consume resources without thought. Their home planet shows the scars of their greed." Another voice joined in. "They are aggressive. Their history is written in blood. How can we trust them?" Do-yoon sat and listened. Each criticism felt like a punch, but he kept his face neutral. Hana squeezed his arm. "Stay strong," she whispered. After an hour of debate, Thexnar finally gestured to Do-yoon. "The human may speak in defense." Do-yoon stood and walked to the podium. He had prepared a speech. Statistics about Earth's united government. Data about human medical advances. Information about the Soul Accord that ended genetic discrimination on Earth. Hana joined him, carrying a holographic display. "Humans are the most adaptable species we've documented," she said, activating images that showed humans living in deserts, ice fields, underwater habitats, and space stations. "We survive everywhere. That adaptability makes us valuable partners." Minho added technical data about human engineering innovations. "We may be young, but we think differently. Our approaches to problems often surprise established solutions." The speech lasted exactly 3 minutes. When it ended, the hall gave the same polite applause as before. Nothing had changed. Doyen could see it in their faces. He returned to his seat feeling defeated. The vote would happen soon. He already knew how it would go. "Doyen," Minho whispered urgently. "The environmental readings are getting worse." "Show me." Minho's data pad displayed a confusing array of numbers and graphs. "The temperature in the eastern wall cavity is rising. The power conduits are showing stress. And look, the safety systems logged 3 warnings in the last hour." Doyen looked at the wall panel near them. It was definitely warmer now. He could see heat shimmer in the air around it. The smell of burning metal was stronger. "We need to tell someone," Doyen said. "I tried," Minho replied. "I sent a report to station security. They said the AI handles all safety issues automatically. They told me not to worry." Doyen stood up and approached a station guard, a hulking creature with armor-like skin. "Excuse me, there's a problem with the wall systems. I think there might be a fire risk." The guard looked down at him. "A fire risk? What is fire?" Doyen blinked. "Fire, combustion, when things burn." "Ah." The guard made a sound that might have been laughter. "Human, we have not had uncontrolled combustion on this station in 200 years. Our systems are perfect. Your species is simply not accustomed to advanced technology." "But the smell?" "Return to your seat. The vote is beginning." Frustrated, Doyen walked back. The smell was definitely stronger now. How could they not notice it? "Maybe we're wrong," Hana said quietly. "They've been doing this for centuries. Their technology is far beyond ours." But Doyen's instincts screamed otherwise. He had spent 15 years as a firefighter. He knew the signs: heat, smell, the way the air moved near the wall. Something was very wrong. Thexnar's voice rang out. "We will now vote on humanity's petition for council membership. All in favor?" 3 lights appeared on the voting display. Only 3 out of 47 species. All opposed? 44 lights appeared. Overwhelming rejection. "The petition is denied," Thexnar declared. "Earth will remain an observer world. Perhaps in another century they will mature enough to join us." The hall filled with chatter. Most aliens had already moved on to other topics. Doyen sat frozen in his chair. They had failed. Earth would remain isolated. "I'm sorry," Hana said softly. Minho looked close to tears. "We came all this way." "It's okay," Doyen lied. "We tried." But inside, he felt hollow. He had let down his entire planet. 7 billion people had put their faith in him, and he had failed them. Thexnar began a long speech about the next topic: trade regulations for quantum materials. Doyen barely listened. He kept staring at the wall panel. Smoke. Was that smoke? A thin, gray wisp was curling from the seam of the panel. He stood up abruptly. "Fire!" he shouted. "There's fire in the wall!" The entire hall went silent. Thousands of eyes turned to him. Then Thexnar laughed, a cold, mocking sound. "Sit down, human. That is steam from the climate control system. Your primitive senses are confused by our technology." "No, Sit down." Thexnar's voice was sharp with command. "You have embarrassed yourself enough for one day." Scattered laughter filled the hall. Doyen felt his face burn with shame. Hana pulled at his sleeve. "Please, Doyen, just sit." He sat. Maybe he was wrong. Maybe it was just steam. Maybe he was so desperate to prove humanity's worth that he was seeing problems where none existed. The seconds ticked by. Thexnar droned on about tariffs and shipping lanes. The gray wisp from the wall grew slightly thicker. Then everything exploded. The wall panel burst outward with a deafening boom. Flames roared into the chamber, brilliant orange and red. The force of the explosion knocked Doyen from his chair. He hit the floor hard, his ears ringing. Screams filled the air. Not human screams, alien sounds of terror that his translator couldn't even interpret. The fire spread with impossible speed, racing along the walls where the power conduits ran. The exotic atmosphere mixture in the chamber, enriched with methane for some of the species, made the flames burn white-hot and hungry. Smoke filled the ceiling. Emergency alarms shrieked. Red lights flashed everywhere. Doyun pushed himself up on shaking arms. Through the chaos, he saw aliens running in every direction. Some were frozen in panic. Others were trying to reach exits that were now sealed by emergency lockdowns that had triggered incorrectly. The temperature was rising fast. Already, it felt like a furnace. Hana coughed beside him, her eyes wide with terror. "What do we do?" Minho was curled on the floor, arms over his head, shaking. Doyun's training took over. His mind cleared. The fear became focus. He had been in burning buildings before. He knew what to do. "Get down!" he shouted to them both. "The smoke rises! Stay low!" He looked out at the burning chamber and the panicking aliens. No one knew what to do. They had never faced fire before. Their perfect technology had protected them for so long that they had forgotten how to fight a disaster. But Doyun remembered, and if they were going to survive, he would have to teach them. Fast. The flames climbed higher, spreading across the ceiling like a living thing. The heat was intense. Doyun could feel his skin tightening from it. Around him, aliens screamed and ran in chaos. Some tried to fly upward, straight into the thick smoke. They fell moments later, unconscious. "Stay down!" Doyun yelled at Hana and Minho. "Cover your faces!" He ripped off his jacket and handed it to Hana. "Hold this over your mouth and nose! The smoke will kill you faster than the fire!" Minho was hyperventilating, his eyes wild. Doyun grabbed his shoulders. "Minho, look at me! Breathe slowly! We're going to be okay, but I need you calm!" Another explosion rocked the chamber. A support beam groaned overhead. Burning debris rained down. An alien nearby, one of the crystalline beings, screamed as a piece of hot metal struck her. Her body cracked, the crystal structure fracturing from the heat. "Help her!" Hana shouted. Doyun crawled forward, staying low where the air was clearer. The crystalline alien was Prismka, the one who had spoken against humanity in the debate. She was trapped against the wall, unable to move. Her body splintering further with each passing second. He reached her and grabbed her arms. They were smooth and cold despite the heat everywhere else. "I've got you," he said. "Move with me." "It hurts," she chimed, her voice fracturing like breaking glass. "I cannot. My body is. Just move." Doyun pulled. She weighed almost nothing. He dragged her back to where Hana and Minho waited, away from the falling debris. Around them, the chaos worsened. Aliens were crushing each other, trying to reach the exits. The doors had sealed automatically, but the override system wasn't responding. They were trapped. Doyun did a quick count. There had to be at least 200 beings in this chamber. A voice boomed over the screaming. "Everyone calm! Security is coming!" It was Thexnar, but even her commanding voice was tinged with panic. She clearly had no idea what to do. Doyun looked around rapidly, his firefighter instincts reading the situation. The fire was spreading from the eastern wall where the power conduits had ruptured. It was feeding on the wall materials and the methane-rich atmosphere. The exits were blocked. The ceiling supports were weakening. They had maybe 10 minutes before structural collapse. "Think," he told himself. "What do you have? What can you use?" "Hana," he said quickly, "your xenobiology training. Which species here can handle heat?" She thought fast, coughing through the smoke. "The Vrelians. Their scales protect them. And the Dernians, they're aquatic. They can spray water from their bodies." "Minho, your datapad. Can you access the station's environmental controls?" Minho's hands shook as he worked the pad. Yes, partially. The AI is damaged, but the manual overrides might work." "Good." Doyun stood up, keeping his head below the worst of the smoke. "I need you to listen to me. All of you. We're going to fight this fire." "Fight it?" Prismka chimed weakly. How do you fight fire? Fire needs 3 things to live, Doyun explained rapidly. Heat, fuel, and oxygen. Take away one of those things, and the fire dies. That's what we're going to do. He looked out at the panicking crowd. He needed to get their attention. He needed them to listen to a primitive human they had mocked just hours ago. Everyone! He shouted as loud as he could. Get to the center of the room! Away from the walls! No one listened. They were too scared. Doyun spotted a large piece of metal debris. He grabbed it and banged it against the floor 3 times. The sound rang out like a bell. Some aliens turned. Listen to the human! A voice suddenly boomed. Doyun turned in shock. It was Thexnar. The Vrelian ambassador stood on her platform, covered in soot but unharmed. He knows about fire! Listen to him! The room began to quiet. Aliens stopped running and started paying attention. Move to the center of the room! Doyun called out. The walls are burning! The center is safer! Go now! Slowly the crowd began to move. They flowed toward the middle of the chamber, away from the blazing walls. Good, Doyun muttered. That buys us time. He turned to Thexnar. I need your help. Are you injured? No. Her voice was steady now. She was a leader, and she was acting like one. What do you need? The fire is spreading because of the air mixture. Too much methane. Minho. Can you change the atmosphere? Minho worked frantically at his pad. Maybe. If I can redirect the nitrogen from the Qualoth breathing tanks. They're stored in the lower chambers. Do it, Doyun ordered. Flood the room with nitrogen. It'll make breathing harder, but it'll slow the fire. That will suffocate many species, Thexnar said. And the fire will kill them all, Doyun shot back. Trust me. She nodded. Proceed. Doyun addressed the crowd again. Species that need special atmospheres. Get low to the ground. The nitrogen will settle high. Those who can breathe anything, help the others. He saw the aquatic Durnians near the eastern edge. You, the water breathers. Can you spray water? One of them gurgled an affirmative. Then spray it on the base of the flames. Don't aim high. Hit where the fire meets the floor. Cut off its fuel. The Durnians moved forward, their bodies rippling. Jets of water shot from specialized organs hitting the flames. Steam hissed up, and some of the fire died back. The Vrelians, Doyun called. Your scales resist heat, right? Thexnar nodded. Yes, we evolved on a hot world. Then I need you to tear away the burning panels. Isolate the fuel. Can you do that? She looked at him for a long moment. This primitive human was giving her orders. Then she turned to her fellow Vrelians. You heard him. With me. A dozen Vrelians moved forward. Their powerful arms ripped away burning wall panels, exposing the conduits behind. They threw the panels toward the center where there was less fuel to feed them. Minho, status! Almost there. I'm rerouting the got it. Minho pressed a final command. There was a hissing sound. White gas began pouring from ceiling vents. Nitrogen, cold and heavy, sank into the room. The flames flickered and dimmed slightly, not gone, but weakened. Doyun felt his chest tighten. The air was getting thinner, but it was working. Keep going, he shouted. We're winning! Then he heard it, a terrible groaning sound from above. He looked up and felt his blood turn to ice. A massive support beam, weakened by the heat, was starting to give way, and directly beneath it stood at least 40 aliens, crowded together. Move! Doyun screamed. Everyone under that beam, move now! But they couldn't hear him over the roar of the fire and their own panic. The beam groaned again, sagging lower. Doyun didn't think, he just ran. Straight toward the danger zone. Toward the beam that was about to fall and crush everyone beneath it. Doyun, no! Hana's voice was distant behind him. He reached the crowd and started pushing aliens aside, shoving them toward safety. Go! 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 Some ran. Others froze in confusion. The beam sagged further. Cracks appeared in the metal. 5 seconds, maybe less. Do-yoon grabbed the nearest alien, a small, furry creature, and threw it toward safety. He grabbed another. The beam screamed. 3 seconds. Minho appeared beside him, helping push aliens clear. Where had he found that courage? 2 seconds. One last alien. It was Thexanar herself, standing frozen, staring up at the falling death above her. Do-yoon hit her with his full body weight, tackling her backward. They fell together, rolling across the floor. The beam fell with a thunderous crash right where Thexanar had been standing. The impact shook the entire chamber, but it had missed everyone. Barely. Do-yoon lay on the floor, gasping for air that wasn't there. His vision blurred. Too much smoke, too little oxygen, but they were alive. Thexanar's face appeared above him, her eyes wide with shock. You saved me. Save. Talk. Later, Do-yoon gasped. Still. Burning. But as he looked around, he saw the fire was dying. The nitrogen had done its job. The Dernian's water had cut off the fuel. The Vrelian's work had isolated the blaze. Emergency crews were finally breaking through the sealed doors. They had done it. Together. The fire was dying, but the work was not finished. Emergency crews poured into the chamber wearing protective suits and carrying equipment that looked far more advanced than anything Do-yoon had ever seen. But they stopped at the entrance, confused by the scene before them. The fire was out, aliens were helping each other, and a human was directing everything. "Medical teams over here," Do-yoon called out, his voice rough from smoke. He pointed to where the injured were gathered. "The crystalline species need cold treatment, not heat. They're cracking from thermal stress." A medic, some kind of floating jellyfish creature, drifted over. "How do you know this?" "She told me," Do-yoon said, gesturing to Prismka. "Listen to what your patients need. Don't assume your standard treatments work for everyone." He moved through the crowd, checking on aliens, directing medical teams to the worst injuries. Hana was right behind him, her xenobiology knowledge proving invaluable. "This species breathes ammonia," she told one confused medic. "Your oxygen treatments will poison him. Use the blue gas, 3rd canister from the left." "How does she know our equipment?" the medic asked. "Because we pay attention," Hana said simply. Minho had found a working terminal and was helping coordinate the emergency response. His fingers flew across the controls, routing power, adjusting life support, and bringing damaged systems back online. "I've got the air filtration working in sectors 3 through 7, he announced. A station engineer approached him. "Impossible. That system requires administrative clearance." Minho looked up. "Then give me administrative clearance. We have people who need clean air." The engineer hesitated, then entered a code. "You're cleared. What else do you need?" "A complete system diagnostic. This wasn't just a fire. The safety systems failed. We need to know why." Do-yoon knelt beside an injured Vrelian guard, one of those who had helped tear away the burning panels. His scales were blackened and cracked. "You did good work," Do-yoon told him. The guard's eyes were glazed with pain. "I thought fire was just a story, a myth from primitive worlds. It's real, and it's dangerous, but it can be fought." Do-yoon checked the guard's breathing. "Steady. Good. Medic, this one needs attention." Across the chamber, Thexanar was organizing the Vrelian delegates, making sure everyone was accounted for. She moved with purpose, her earlier panic completely gone. When she finished, she walked over to where Do-yoon was working. 217 beings were in this chamber, she said. 0 deaths, 42 injuries, none life-threatening. She looked at Do-yoon with an expression he couldn't quite read. "How?" "Training," Do-yoon said. "And luck." "No." Thexanar's voice was firm. "Leadership. You took command when no one else could. You organized us. You taught us how to fight something we didn't understand." She paused. "You saved my life, Twice, once from the fire and once from the beam. Anyone would have. No, Thexnar interrupted. No one else did. Only you. The station commander arrived, a tall alien with too many legs and a voice that buzzed like insects. I need a report. What happened here? System failure, Minho called out from his terminal. Your AI prioritized efficiency over safety. It ignored 17 warnings about power conduit stress. The automatic safety overrides were disabled to save energy costs. The commander's color shifted to something that might have been embarrassment. That's impossible. It's right here in the logs, Minho said. Someone authorized a cost-saving measure 3 months ago. It turned off redundant safety checks. The humans, Doyun specifically, noticed the problem hours before the fire. He tried to report it. No one listened. The commander turned to Doyun. You knew? I suspected, Doyun said. I could smell the electrical burning, see the heat shimmer, but I was told my primitive senses were confused. The silence that followed was heavy. Prismka chimed from her resting place nearby. Her body was wrapped in cooling blankets. We called you primitive. We mocked you, and then you saved us. I didn't do it alone, Doyen said, gesturing around. Everyone helped. The Dernians sprayed water, the Vrelians tore away the burning panels. Minho changed the atmosphere. Hana treated the injured. We survived because we worked together. But you led us, said another voice. It was Morva, the Quiloth representative who had opposed humanity so strongly in the debate. Without your knowledge, we would have died. All of us. Doyen looked around at the soot-covered aliens, at the destroyed chamber, at Hana and Minho, who had proven themselves heroes. Fire isn't special to humans, he said. It's just physics. Heat, fuel, oxygen. We learned to fight it because we had to. Because our world is dangerous and we learned to survive it. Most species never face fire, Thexanar said. We build safe worlds, perfect systems. We forget that danger exists. But danger always exists, Doyun said. Somewhere, somehow. The question is whether you're ready for it. The station commander's color shifted again. We were not ready. You were. Over the next few hours, the chamber was cleared. The injured were taken to medical facilities. The fires were completely extinguished. Engineers began assessing the damage. It was extensive. The entire eastern wall would need to be rebuilt, and the environmental systems required replacement. Doyun sat on a piece of debris, exhausted. Every muscle hurt. His throat was raw from smoke and shouting. His hands were burned in places from hot metal. But he was alive. They were all alive. Hana sat beside him. She had a bandage on her forehead but was otherwise unhurt. We did it, she said softly. Yeah. They're talking about you, you know. All over the station. The human who saved the council. I don't want to be a hero, Doyen said. I just want Earth to be recognized, to be part of this community. I think, Hana said slowly, that might happen now. Minho approached, carrying 3 bottles of water he had somehow found. The station news is reporting the story. Messages are coming in from dozens of species. They're all asking the same thing. What? They want to know how humans know so much about emergency response, about fire, about surviving disasters. Minho grinned despite his exhaustion. And they're asking why the council rejected a species with such valuable knowledge. Doyun looked up at the damaged ceiling. Somewhere beyond it, the stars turned. Earth was out there, waiting to hear if their diplomatic mission had succeeded or failed. The answer had changed in the last few hours. But Doyun didn't know yet if the council would see it. He would find out tomorrow, when they reconvened to vote again, if they voted again. He stood up slowly, his body protesting. Come on, he said to Hana and Minho. Let's get cleaned up. We have work to do. Around them, aliens were helping each other from the ruined chamber. Vrelians supported injured Quiloth. Dernians used their water-spraying abilities to clean soot from crystalline species. Species that had never worked together before were now moving as one. And in the center of it all, 3 humans walked toward the exit, tired, burned, but unbowed. The galaxy had noticed humanity now. For better or worse, they could not be ignored anymore. 3 days later, the Galactic Council reconvened in a temporary chamber. The Grand Assembly Hall was still under repair. This new room was smaller, simpler, and smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals. But it was safe. The safety systems had been completely rebuilt with human consultation. Doyun sat in a different chair this time. Not in the back, near the ventilation, but in the 3rd row, a position of respect. Hana and Minho sat beside him. All 3 wore fresh clothes, though Doyun still had bandages on his hands from the burns. The room was quieter than before. The aliens who entered looked at the 3 humans differently now. Some nodded in respect, others simply stared. The mockery was gone. Thexnar entered last. Her scales had been cleaned and polished, but Doyun could see new scars where the fire had burned her. She took her position at the center platform and looked out at the gathered species. "We are here to address the matter of Earth's petition for council membership," she began. Her voice was different now, softer. 3 days ago, many of us voted to reject humanity. We called them primitive, violent, unworthy. The room was silent. 3 days ago, we were wrong. Thexnar gestured to the damaged walls around them. When disaster struck, when our perfect technology failed, when our advanced civilization panicked, it was the humans who knew what to do. It was the humans who led us, who saved us. She looked directly at Doyun. Doyun Kim tried to warn us about the fire. We did not listen. We assumed our systems were perfect. We forgot that perfection is an illusion. Safety is not given by technology alone. It is earned through knowledge, preparation, and the willingness to face danger. Prismka rose from her seat. Her crystalline body had been repaired, the cracks sealed with some kind of bonding agent that shimmered. "I spoke against humanity," she chimed. "I said they had nothing to offer us. Then this human carried me from the flames. He risked his life for someone who had insulted his species." Morva stood next. The massive Quiloth looked uncomfortable. "I said humans were too aggressive, too violent. But when violence came, when fire tried to consume us, their controlled aggression saved us. They fought with courage and discipline." One by one, aliens stood and spoke. The station commander admitted that his cost-cutting measures had caused the disaster. The security chief acknowledged that they had ignored Doyun's warnings. The medical teams praised Hana's quick thinking that had prevented treatment errors. The engineers thanked Minho for his work restoring the damaged systems. Finally, Thexnar spoke again. "The question before us is not whether humans are perfect. No species is. The question is whether humanity has something valuable to contribute to this council." She paused. "I believe they do. They remember what we have forgotten. They know how to survive. And more importantly, they are willing to share that knowledge to save others." She turned to the assembly. "I move that we vote again on Earth's petition for council membership." "All in favor?" Lights appeared on the voting display. Doyun held his breath. 1 light, 2, 5, 10, 20. The lights kept appearing, more and more. Doyun felt his heart pounding. 40 lights, 44, 46. When the count stopped, 47 lights glowed on the display. Every single species had voted yes. A unanimous decision. "The motion passes," Thexnar announced, and her voice carried something that might have been pride. "Earth is hereby recognized as a full member of the Galactic Council, with all rights and responsibilities that entails." The chamber erupted, not in laughter this time, but in genuine applause. Aliens stood and clapped in whatever way their bodies allowed. Some made musical sounds, others stomped their feet or beat their appendages together. Doyen sat frozen. He could not believe it. Earth was in. Humanity had a place among the stars. Hana grabbed his arm, tears streaming down her face. Minho was actually jumping up and down like a child. Thexnar raised her hand for silence. There is one more matter. The Council has decided to create a new position, the Galactic Safety Coordinator. This position will oversee emergency preparedness across all Council installations. It will establish safety protocols, training programs, and response systems. She looked at Doyen. We would like to offer this position to Doyen Kim. Doyen stood slowly. I'm honored. But I have one condition. Name it. Every council station must have proper fire safety training, not just for fire, but for any emergency. We need to train security teams, medical teams, engineering teams. Everyone should know the basics of survival and disaster response. Thexnar nodded. Agreed. Do you accept the position? On one more condition, Doyun said. Hana Choi must head a new department of comparative environmental hazards. We need to study and prepare for dangers from all our different worlds, and Minho Park should be Earth's permanent representative to the Technical Safety Commission. Whispers filled the chamber. Doyen was not just accepting honor for himself. He was ensuring his team was recognized, too. Also agreed, Thexnar said. Welcome to the Council, Coordinator Kim. The applause came again, louder this time. 6 months later, Doyen stood in the rebuilt assembly hall. It looked much like the old one, but with one crucial difference. On every wall, at every exit, were clear emergency instructions. Fire extinguishers, a human invention, were mounted in accessible locations. The environmental systems had been redesigned with multiple redundancies. And in the main corridor, a holographic plaque had been installed. It showed an image of the fire, and below it, words in every council language, in memory of the Great Fire of Kepler Station, where humanity proved that civilization is not measured by how advanced your technology is, but by how you respond when that technology fails, by who you help when everything falls apart, by the knowledge you share so others might survive. Doyen read it and smiled slightly. It was a good message. Coordinator Kim? A voice interrupted his thoughts. It was a young alien he did not recognize, some kind of insect species with delicate wings. Yes? I'm here for the emergency response training. I'm told you're the instructor? I am. Doyen gestured down the corridor. Training room 3, you're early. I wanted to be. I heard what you did, how you saved everyone. I want to learn. Other aliens were arriving now, dozens of them, from many different species, all here to learn about fire safety, emergency response, disaster preparedness. Things that humans had learned through hard experience. Hana appeared from a side corridor carrying data pads. Ready for today's session? Ready, Doyen confirmed. Minho rushed up, slightly out of breath. Sorry I'm late. I was inspecting the new safety systems on Deck 7. They're installed perfectly. The 3 humans walked together toward the training room. Through the windows, Doyen could see the stars, and somewhere out there, Earth was receiving the news. Their children were serving on the Council. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Inside the training room, Doyen stood before a class of 40 aliens. They looked at him with respect, with interest, ready to learn. Welcome, he began, to Emergency Response Training Session 1. Today we're going to talk about fire, what it is, how it starts, how to fight it, and most importantly, how to prevent it. He activated a holographic display showing flames. Several aliens flinched. They had never seen fire before the incident. Fire is one of humanity's oldest enemies, Doyen continued, but it taught us valuable lessons, and now we're going to share those lessons with you. Because the goal of the Galactic Council should not be to avoid all danger. That's impossible. The goal should be to face danger together, prepared, as one community. The aliens leaned forward, listening. "Let's begin with the fire triangle," Doyon said. "Fire needs 3 things to exist." As he taught, he thought about how far they had come. From mockery to respect. From rejection to acceptance. From 3 humans standing alone to 3 humans teaching the galaxy. It had taken a disaster to change minds, but maybe that was how progress always happened, not through speeches or data, but through action. Through proving your worth when it mattered most. Earth had proven its worth, and the galaxy was better for it. Outside the window, a ship departed from the station. It carried the first group of alien students heading to Earth to study emergency response at human training facilities. The exchange program was beginning, knowledge flowing in both directions. Doyon watched it go and felt something he had not felt in years: pride, hope, and the certainty that humanity had found its place among the stars, not as the strongest species, not as the most advanced, but as the ones who remembered how to survive, how to help others survive, how to face the fire and not run away. That was humanity's gift to the galaxy, and it was more valuable than any technology could ever be. The lesson continued. The students learned. And somewhere in the vast darkness of space, other stations began installing their own fire safety systems, training their own response teams, preparing for emergencies they had never imagined. All because one human had refused to sit down when he smelled smoke. All because 3 humans had shown the galaxy what it meant to be brave. The story of the first human diplomat would be told for generations, not as a tale of mockery, but as a reminder that sometimes the newest voice in the room is the one most worth hearing, and sometimes being primitive means remembering what advanced civilizations have forgotten: how to survive, how to help, how to be human.